Welcome aboard, and welcome back. We are on episode 10, where we'll be looking at this medical facility here. This episode marks the first of 4 episodes that will debut every other Tuesday, and sort of wrap us up for Season 1. We're going to be doing a second season, probably after a little break. After those episodes, I don't have anything built for it yet. What you're going to be seeing in the next 4 episodes is as far as I have it built at this moment in time. So here we got the medical facility and the monorail down the center here. We're also going to be seeing how I built these risers over on the right and left where they can drop people off. In some shots you're going to see some spinning holograms, but some recent mod changes made it so that you can't see them anymore. So I'm trying to figure that out still. I'm also going to start construction on this little shopping mall with some fountains. Over on the right there you see a big black box. Inside the black box is a mystery for the next episode. Although I'm not sure, near the end of the episode you might get a little glimpse of what's being built over there. And then we're also going to start right here on this residential area. This is sort of just more expanded residential. I needed wanted to bump up the citizens amount inside the city, so I thought I'd build this back here in the corner. This is D13, and welcome aboard. So here we are, primary medical facility. I actually mocked this up and put in these little platforms a little farther over. I was thinking it was going to be farther down. And then I realized, I want the primary medical facility to actually be right by this, monorail, subway, bus hub. So here I put a couple of people generators under the edges there, so they generate some people. And these are, I believe, commercial buildings, commercial or residential. And I just brought them in there. I didn't PO them or anything. They are real, buildings for the game. Because there's a road underneath there, they have road access. So here's where I actually took one and I did PO it, because I wanted to have use it for decoration. I wanted to be able to extend the bottom of this area down here, and I'm actually taking out some of my little step-looking things that are for covering the road. There's a little more movement of things just to sort of figure out where things are going to go. And I love this building. This is sort of my generic go-to filler on this end of the base. Or on this end of Alpha Sector. We're going to be calling it Alpha Sector. I was calling it Sector A. And here is now where I plopped that big shopping mall. And I wanted to get it in here because I wanted something that looked a little bit like the medical facility, but I thought there'd be maybe some shopping. I wanted to do some residential down here on this end of the base, and or this end of this sector. Now here's where I went and I grabbed this fountain that goes up and down, and it copies everything on it because it's a PO, and it copied all the PO up down stuff. So we got a little fountain going up and down right there. So next was originally was calling this the hospital. You're going to see me change hospital to medical later, but I took the small red hospital sign and made it really big. And then here's these the red crosses, which are sort of universal for medical. I put them on here. Again, you're going to see me move these. They're going to become Actually, I'm going to use a procedural object one later that's a hologram. All right, so I thought I would just lay in some of the grass, you know, get this all flattened out really nice here, and just see what it's going to look like, you know, where I wanted all the grass to be. Unfortunately, I didn't really realize where I was going to put roads, so pretty soon you're going to see me come back and put some roads in and take out a whole bunch of grass. I was thinking the sides of this area right here, where I'm putting these doors, would be really cool, those little bump outs, if I put some garage doors there, and then I can just have vehicles going in and out of there. So I went and grabbed a garage door. One of these train doors. Might be a Ronix train door. I used it like crazy in Thundertown, my other series, and that finished. But I like the train doors. I use them in a lot of spots. The black door on the right there is also a train door. Yeah, here's where I decided, oh yeah, I need some, you know, I need to open this up a little bit so I can put things in here. And here I wanted to put a little parking lot. I was actually thinking of doing a real parking lot, but then I got worried a tiny bit because I can't remember 100% if every if every vehicle is a pod vehicle. And I didn't really want too many vehicles driving out here. So mostly what you'll see come in and out of here is either the hearse version, which is dark gray, I think, or the red one, which I think is an ambulance, medical. You know, or I can't remember if fire was red or maybe medical is red. So here I'm putting these roads in here. They only go part way under to start. I believe I do connect them underneath to the other side. You might not see that here, but I did that so that I can stack a lot of, you know, the little asset cubes, the blocks underneath this building. Because these two big buildings, even though they are, I believe they are not POs. I believe the two big buildings are the actual buildings and they actually function as, I think they are hospitals. Maybe they're residential or something. But here you're seeing me I'm just making a ton of these hospitals, medical facilities. And I also stuck a lot of, you know, health, you know, elder care and things like that under there, the children's care. I'll put a lot underneath there. The sector of the base isn't that big. I mean, they get a really good amount of coverage, and I do have vehicles and ambulances and blocks that are medical in other buildings throughout this sector. This is mainly just to show where it would be if we had a massive medical facility inside the base, and you know, it would cover the whole base if this were a star base, because it would be easy to get to it. There's roads in the outer edges of the rings that you'll see me build a little platform on top. And the little platform on top is where they could be dropped off. Then you've also got the buses, the pod buses running down here on the lower level. You've also got the upper and lower monorail running here. And then there's underneath the monorail again, in case you haven't seen any of the older episodes, is a metro, an underground subway that comes up right in the middle underneath each of these three huge monorail hubs and or, you know, transportation hubs, we can say. So here I'm just filling in some of this grass texture. I really just fell in love with this like manicured lawn texture. It's a decal, and I just stuck it everywhere here on top of the grass. So I try to cover as much grass as I could with that, wherever I'm not going to be doing a lot of trees, and really wanted to bring a lot of greenery, you know, life into this area. So here's this hologram with the medical plus on it. I made it really big, and I put it above the monorail, showing, you know, if you're on the monorail, you'll see coming into this station that this is the medical station, so you don't miss it. And made it rotate here using procedural objects. I had it a little off at first, because there was one errant, vertice from manipulating that other procedural object. I eventually had to fix it, which you might see me do here. So here I raise these up, and then I think on the other side, or I'm going to remove them, and eventually I'm going to put the word medical up there. So So you see how it's rotating incorrectly here? See those two vertices? You're going to highlight and move them directly dead center. And now the whole thing has a new center. I recentered object origin. That means it'll center around all of the vertices and it'll rotate properly. Didn't really intend for the episode to be a a how-to on procedural objects, but it's a little hint there for you. If you use procedural objects. Not everybody does. There's a lot of vanilla players out there. I don't think I'll ever do a vanilla series, but I gotta say, the airports DLC has me really intrigued. I would consider doing a vanilla series just to sort of show off what I can actually do when it comes to actually playing the game, instead of this custom stuff I'm doing here, you know. So here you see me trying to get the upper platform in. So the way I do these is you put the road down at ground level, and then you raise it up. And underneath it, there's a terraforming network that gets rid of all the dirt and flattens it. So that's actually a ground level piece of road all the way on top. So this way I can connect paths to it very easily. I can put buildings on it. I can raise up those block buildings and hide them. I can run that kind of road underneath and have raised buildings really high up in the air. So here I'm actually starting to work on putting a upper platform or other upper pathway. So the first thing I do is I take the pathway all the way down to the ground, so it's connected to a road that's on the ground. That means the end of it will be this little flat, instead of rounded piece, and that means it's connected very well to the upper road there. So I drop them in here like this, and then I'll stretch them so they go inside the building and then down to the ground. So that way people coming into the building from the ground level, or from up here on the road, can get all the way down to the ground level where there's the medical facilities and all the other stuff that's down there. It'll also let them, you'll see people going in and out of the front of the building down here, and then they'll reach the road, and then they can go elsewhere. And because I'm going to hide on the couple of levels that are up here that are hidden, or on this level up here that's hidden, I'm going to hide some residential and commercial inside some, buildings and stuff up here. They will come up here. They'll go through the monorail, they'll get off the monorail, they'll go into this building and up and through this walkway. And then they'll walk across the street here and they'll go into buildings. So, which is what I want. I want people walking up here. It's less about fulfilling numbers with this kind of building. It's more about, I want people, I want vehicles, I want things moving around the base. So I do as much as I can to facilitate having people moving around the base. Or I should say maybe the city. Because this is a city, it's a star-based city. It has to have all of the functioning water and electricity and stuff, although I do use mods to cheat that. I mean, not that I can't have the right amount of electricity or water. I do. I have to have the amount to cover the amount of people and buildings. It's all in the central hub of the base. And it's all mostly the little blocks that provide the numbers, provide that for it. And then there's a mod that just says, if you have enough, it's just enough on the whole map. You don't need to connect pipes or electricity anywhere. Although one of the hidden roads here is what they call a solar road. I believe it actually creates electricity. I don't know how it does that, but I think it's called a solar road, an electric road. But I used to use the electric roads mod, and that allowed anywhere you had a road that was connected to electricity, it became a power connector. So here, I'm just putting a little platform in up here. I'm trying to figure out what the shape of this raised area should be. And after putting in these curved train network edges, I eventually just went ahead and made it flat, and it looks okay. Eventually I do something to cover up the road slightly, I believe, to make it there we go. I raised them up just slightly so they sort of change the color of the road a little bit. But you'll see me do a lot more, tweaking up here as the episode goes on. So I wanted to do something with similar architecture to the two big buildings. So what I did was I took the big building, turned it into a procedural object, and chopped off, like I say it's chopped off. You're really just pulling together all these little vertices, these little blue dots, and making them all go to the same location, make them the same point. So what I've done is I've chopped off as much as I could, and I know that I'm going to hide the backside of it so it doesn't have to look pretty. So I'm getting it, it's about the same size as the main building, so I'm just sort of tweaking this in here. I want to put 2 or 3 of these across the top, so this will be where the road enters into the side of the base. And I thought, yeah, these buildings look cool. They look like they're part of the medical facility. And now it's a matter of, sort of doubling them up in terms of height. I think I made them a group, then I can copy paste the group a couple of times. And I was thinking, okay, those look good. Maybe one more in the middle. We'll get a little three bumps of building here. We'll put them on the same on the other side. I don't quite have it perfect on each side, like, matching perfectly. Everything isn't quite perfectly symmetrical. It's mainly because of the curve of the base. Like, those 3 buildings are slightly curved towards, they're along the inner edge on this side, and then the other side it's concave and convex or whatever, right? So they curve a little differently on each side of the base, so they're not perfectly symmetrical. Although, oddly, symmetry is something that when I'm an artist, I do a lot of art and things like that, and I'm also a computer programmer. And for me, when it comes to the art aspect, I'm very symmetrical focused. I'm heavy on symmetry. Although I know lack of symmetry creates architectural interest and things like that. So here we're sort of getting a natural lack of symmetry for the architectural interest. Although I think it's like a little OCD. It irks me a little bit when it's not perfectly symmetrical. Hopefully that won't, I'm sure it doesn't, I'm not perfectly symmetrical throughout the base, but I am trying a lot in places where I probably shouldn't. But I loved doing it here with these 2 buildings. I thought having 2 identical buildings across from each other, really would look really cool here when it came to the medical facility. Now, as a medical facility goes, we don't have any flying vehicles inside the base. I'm still not 100% convinced that that's okay. I'm starting to think that maybe it would be okay to have some flying vehicles as long as what would the risk be, right? They could crash into whatever the glass dome is, or is probably not glass. It's probably an energy field. There is a blast shield that can come up, which I use. It's just a big blue cover for the base, so I can use that when I'm shooting shots of exterior, because if you don't, then you have it turned way up so you can see props and procedural objects and everything from a great distance, and that affects the performance of being able to record cinematics on the exterior. Here I'm putting in a bunch of doors for the platforms. I found this really nice building. I think it's an in-game asset. It might be like the elder care, or maybe it's a child care or something. So I turned it into a procedural object because I wanted to fit it perfectly to this location. And inside there, again, I think I put elder care, child care. This is where I think I actually put those 2 things. And I think I put some crematoriums in here. So I have the invisible crematorium, and I have a death cube. Death cube. And I put all of those inside here. The reason that I put them all in here is because they have access to a road right there, and I was able to see them coming in and out of there, and it was really interesting. Here I'm connecting so that people will walk in and out of this building. I think I did procedural object it. So I eventually put in this path, and the path goes in and up and connects to the path that runs along the outer edge that eventually goes down to that Cosmic Gardens concourse. I kept calling it the Golden Gardens in previous episodes. Sorry about that. So here I didn't like how the steps had this sort of platform around them that didn't look like you could walk right onto the deck here. So I eventually lowered some of that. You see a big tall building to the right there and these sort of train railings. I moved them around. So here I wanted to put in some housing. This is where I started on the housing. And I got one that I liked. And I found these two like really tall, not super tall, but they're quad buildings, and I believe they are residential. And then I got these other residentials that are like sort of high-end residential buildings that look really nice with pools and stuff. And I thought I'd raise them up here. And it turns out that, when they're raised in the air, the ones that, not that one. When these are raised in the air, they're actually at ground level, but their connection is raised. So you have to have a raised road to connect to them. So here again, you're seeing me put a ground level road, and then it's just sort of really hard to manipulate back here. It's up really high and near an edge of a key, and it's a little rough. So I eventually got this road up in here, and I'm going to move it inside this a little bit and underneath. So what's going to happen is I'm going to put these roads in that connect to these buildings so they can have services it's completely hidden. You never see a vehicle driving up to it. And the other taller buildings were actually connected to the lower road that's underneath there. And this is where I was doing some manipulating of this path. I wanted to get the path down to the bottom. And this let me put in like a little bunch of little residential cubes up in here. So this area is like sort of overloaded when it comes to having residential. I really wanted to overdo it. I wanted to be able to increase the amount of people here by a considerable amount, like I said earlier. This will give me a lot of people at this end, and wherever I have wherever then I have nearby commercial, it'll generate people moving around. Oh yeah, here I wanted a way to get up there, so I decided to have people going in through these buildings. I thought it'd be a kind of cool idea to have a big door and a path going down the center of this, and then they could get inside there. This building's like a science institute or something, and it has the same aesthetic as the medical facility I have over here on the right. And I thought I'd put this in here somewhere. So I eventually find a home for it. It's like I finally settle on a spot. I think that's where I finally settled on it. What am I doing? Oh, I'm bringing in a big platform. I was trying to figure out what I want to do here. Do I want a big platform way at the top? But then it was sort of putting a lot of shade on these buildings down below, and I thought, I don't think so. I brought it back down below here so that I could just sort of build out this, like, I don't know, what do you call it? Like maybe a upper class terrace or something. I would assume that these are pretty nice buildings. Well, overall, the whole base. I don't know that there'd be too many. Not really upper lower class. I don't think would be so much a thing in this future, or at least on this base. I think that the base is more Star Trek: The Next Generation, than it is, say, I don't know, The Expanse, right? If you know those sci-fi references, The Expanse is sort of it takes place in space or near Mars, where they're mining for water and things like that. And there's 3 factions, and they sort of are at war, or at least unhospitable towards each other. Then you look at Star Trek: The Next Generation, and like the ship doesn't really have an upper and lower class. It's like everybody is a member of Starfleet. It's really bright and clean and orderly, and everybody's happy. I imagine this might be closer to that than the Expanse, at least in this habitable area, this in Alpha Sector. I think what you'll see as I go on with the base. Here I put in some really high up buildings, so I ran another road. I ran another much higher road through here to cover those. But I think what you'll see here in the base is this area is going to represent sort of clean sci-fi, and I think we're going to have a little more grittiness in some of the industrial sectors. I think that's where you're going to see sort of cyberpunk-like or Blade. I want to say Blade Runner. Yeah, something like that. I think so. So you will definitely see something closer to that in other areas of the base. And I'm going to be starting. So after I finish these next couple episodes and we take the break, I'm going to be working on a industries sector. We're just going to call that one Beta Sector. I believe Beta Sector is going to be all of the agriculture. I really want to cover how to do actually functional industries in this kind of a build, in this crazy, almost 3D editor style of build. I want really functional farms, and I want functional logging for, I don't know that there's a whole lot of wood on board the base. I mean, I imagine they'd be using it for something. Maybe decorations and stuff inside these buildings, or maybe they sell it somewhere as a commodity. But maybe the trees are also, who knows what they're for. But I guess we're gonna have. I'm gonna try farms, for sure. We'll see what we can do with farms. So here I took some buildings that I had farther down in the base, and I made like a little facade, a false facade, so I could run this, just sort of cover this area on the top and get these buildings, make these buildings look like they're actually on top of something. Like, imagine these again would be like very, ritzy, expensive. Maybe you rent those up there. Cabanas, villas, not really. Here's where I'm just trying to figure out how to fill in between the lower buildings, which are functional buildings, and the upper functional building, but I didn't really want to raise a building because it had a whole lot of junk on the ground, or something. So there was a reason not to do it. Oh yeah, I didn't want these vents, these rotating vents on top to be seen. So I procedural object it and just brought it in here and plopped it on top of the other building. So here again, I'm playing around here with these middle buildings. I think I took out that really big platform, so I'm bringing in some smaller platforms here to make it curved. The problem with one big platform is you can't curve it very easily. But using smaller pieces and putting them together lets you curve it through here. So, talking more a little bit about what we're going to see in the rest of the base, we're going to have the agriculture area, and I would like to do mining. I tried already an experiment with making functioning mining inside of asteroids. And the problem was I couldn't make the flying vehicles that I wanted to go out and mine. I could not make them not then try to run on the roads inside the base. Even on the inside roads, like there's like hidden stuff where it connects to the outside. That you don't get to see because it's hidden inside the central ring. And there's a rail in there that goes off map and all that stuff. I didn't want them flying around in there in case I wanted to detail that someday. So what I tried to do is I just left the trucks in place and made them pods, and I hit a road underground where you wouldn't see it, and it came up inside each asteroid where I had a flat piece of ground inside there, and I put a mine and I put some facilities and stuff inside each one. I'm telling you about this because you're not going to see this part. I'll redo it if from scratch if I do it. This was a failed experiment. And it was working in that it was bringing, there was a mining area inside the base, and then vehicles would go out, they'd mine, they'd come back, and they'd start to process the ore. What I had to do to make it look like ships were flying back and forth from the base, so I had to do raised invisible roads and buses. So I made custom spaceship buses to fly on these invisible roads, and they would fly out of the base, and they'd go out to the asteroid, and they'd go inside, and then they would sit at their little bus stop, and then they'd come out and they'd fly back. While it looked okay, it wasn't truly mining. Like, it wasn't sending the vehicles out and mining and coming back. It was. I mean, it was doing it hidden. And that, I'm not above doing all that hidden. But I actually kind of feel like it's unnecessary to actually have the real mining inside the asteroids unless I'm trying to prove that I can do it. So you may or may not see that happen in the future. I'm not sure that it's going to end up with any kind of mining whatsoever, but you can import, I believe, what you need to be able to process for mining. So possibly I'll build some mining stuff inside the base, and it will mine, but we won't actually dig. It'll just be processing. So maybe we'll have some spaceships that just fly in and out, and we'll say that those things drop off ore and things like that get refined at the starbase. Although I'm still not certain I won't try the asteroids again. All right, here's the cinematics. Sit back and relax. Thanks for stopping by. I hope you'll like and subscribe. It really helps the channel, and we'll see you again soon. If you like this video, check out these cool videos.